Good evening. Today's September 1st, 2022. And I'd like to call the meeting to order for the Land Use Committee of Community District 17.
Please remember to record, Mr. Affray.
Yeah, we're recording, Ms. Fraser.
Thank you. I'll mute myself now. Thank you.
Thank you. First thing on our agenda is greetings and introductions. We do have new members, so just to introduce everybody to myself, my name is Kwame, long-term resident of Community District, the Flatbush area. The purpose of this committee is we have business that we conduct. There's many facets to land use, many areas to discuss, lots of businesses that come to approvals, which we have tonight. And, more or less it's a forum to get our ideas together and more or less move forward to try to get something for our community that has input from the members of the community from the land use perspective, right? That's short and sweet, but if you're new, you'll get into it. Don't be afraid to ask questions. Don't be afraid to, speak to me on the side. I'll have my information in the chat at some point when I get an opportunity to. And that's it for introduction. So it's a small room. So I guess we could just go around real quick and everyone introduce themselves. Just so we could just get familiar with what's going on. I'll start with Allison.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Allison Martinez, committee member.
Ms. Cook. Ms. Cook's not there. Patricia Gabriel.
Yes, good afternoon, good evening, sorry. This is Ms. Cook. I'm just a resident of East New 282 East 35th Street for the past over 47 years.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Patricia Gabriel.
Good evening. I'm just a resident at 76 East 58th Street in East Flatbush.
Thank you, Ms. Gabriel, for your attendance tonight. Ms. Maribel Downs. She's probably having an issue of muting herself. Vanessa.
Hi, Vanessa Quashi, committee member.
Thank you, Vanessa. Adele.
Adele Bennett, committee member.
Mr. Amable.
Hi, I'm Alton Amable from Tropical Pet. Have some business to discuss with the Land Use Committee. I appreciate you guys having us.
Ms. Lilith Heron Robinson. Probably having issues. Okay. Mr. Keith Marcel.
Hi, good evening. My name is Keith Marcel, Tropical Pet. I'm also a resident of East Flatbush. To be precise, I live on New York between Farragut and Glenwood. Thank you for having us here tonight.
Definitely. Thank you. C.K. Price. Price isn't available. Anyone else want to unmute themselves and introduce themselves to the room? Feel free to.
Yes. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Ann Hudson. I have been living in this community for over 20 years. I've been associated with the with other committees, and I've been associated with the Land Use Committee since last year. And I'm very excited to be a part of this community.
Thank you, Ms. Hudson.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Teresa Brereton, community member, and I've been living in East Flatbush for over 40 years, and I am delighted to be part of this community.
Thank you, Ms. Brenton. And I'll close it off with.
Good evening, everyone.
Oh, who's speaking?
Dale Dawes, committee member.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Cerie Lawson. I just moved to the area about a year ago. I'm not new to Brooklyn, but new to East Flatbush. and I'm just looking to become more involved in the community. Thank you so much.
Hi, good evening. I'm JL James, and a member of Community Board 17.
So yourself through, Ms. James. It's our
Good
rezoning
evening.
chair.
Good evening, everyone. This is Marguerite Filiante. I'm a board member and a committee member. Good evening.
Good evening, everyone. My name is T.S. Candy. I am a community member and a newly elected county committee member.
Good evening. My name is Asar John, new committee member and essentially a lifelong resident of Flatbush.
Asar,
Hi, Joan Erskine, community member, committee member.
Gail Bartholomew, community member, over 25 years.
And Rachel Goodfriend, community member, community board member, and committee member.
Thank you.
Good evening. I'm Cherie Fraser, district manager, and I'm here to just observe. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone, for your introductions.
Good evening. This is Ms. Monk from Senator Bassar's office.
Okay. You said from whose office? I'm sorry.
Senator Roxanne Bassar's office.
Thank you.
Mary Beldows, committee member, board member.
Excellent. All right. Believe that closes out our introductions. Thank you, everybody, for coming this evening. We'll move the agenda along. Our first order of business is the approval of meeting minutes. You know, it was challenging last year getting meeting minutes to our members, but we did have a backlog of minutes, and we had, unfortunately, not the ability to approve minutes due to lack of membership in our final meeting due to not enough members being there to achieve quorum. At this time, we're going to be approving the meeting minutes for January, February, March, and June. The May meeting was canceled, and the April meeting file was corrupted. So that'll have to be done at another time. Does anyone have any addendums, changes, or reviews that need to be done to the meeting minutes that's been presented?
I just have a question. Were those minutes sent out recently?
I don't know if they were resent out.
Because I didn't get any, so it's very hard to discuss meeting minutes from that long ago without having them presented.
Let me ask, Ms. Frazier, did that email that Ms. Barton sent out get distributed?
I did send out, I only received, I think, 2 or 3 sets of minutes, and I emailed that to everyone today.
I did not get
Or
them.
yesterday, I think. I need to get into my email to determine the date and time I send it out. 1 second.
So, did anyone else not receive the meeting minutes?
I didn't receive the minutes unless it was in the initial email with the link that was sent a few weeks ago.
I want to have, that would be improper, I would think, to have an approval of minutes that nobody had the opportunity to review. So, I'll have to make sure that we get those minutes out to you. We're probably going to have to forego the approval of these minutes so we could assure that we properly distribute committee members for review.
I did receive meeting minutes this morning at 8:18 a.m. with the updated agenda for March and for June.
Right, those are the 2 that I emailed this morning, yes. Unreceived, I sent them out. Community members, please note, I am actually on vacation. I took some time off just to assist with this meeting because we're short of staff. So please excuse my tardiness. I try to get the information out as quickly as possible. Mr. Afray, I'm afraid we may have to table the minutes until the next scheduled meeting.
It's not a problem.
Thank you.
Okay, moving the agenda along, the next item is the chairperson's report. Today, hopefully everyone had a wonderful summer. I'd like to start my report with extending my condolences to one of our members, Ms. Viglianti. Her mother recently passed, and we weren't really conducting business at the time, and we never got to address that. So I just wanted to start by saying that you were in our thoughts, in our prayers, and I know it's a tough hurdle to get through. I've experienced it, and we're here for your support if you need us.
Thank you. I appreciate it very much. And I did get some individual phone calls and emails, and I really am appreciative. Thank you.
No problem. As for the business of land use, we didn't receive any communications, nothing regarding landmarking approvals, nothing regarding variances for businesses, nothing regarding reports of complaints, which was kind of odd, but it was a quiet summer for us on the business end. We did get contacted by Mr. Aimable last week and his team, and he's coming here tonight to do a presentation for that. Tried to get that information out to you guys so you can review, live with it, and prepare your questions for tonight, because he is looking for a letter of support. As for myself, I did attend, several, online and in-person events. We did have a retreat to introduce ourselves to the new members, some of which are here tonight. New executive members, one of which is here tonight, Ms. Thomas. She's our new secretary. And, the purpose of these meetings was learning how to operate meetings, be efficient in meetings, and basically respect everyone's time. And that's the tone that we're looking forward with as we move forward as an organization and try to conduct business of the community. We want to be as efficient with people's time and respect their time as much as possible. So we are going to try to create some ground rules. I'm not going to do that with you guys today because, it's our first day, but next month, we're going to hit the ground running. We're going to review Robert's rules just to get a refresher, just so we know how to run a meeting, how to object, and how to conduct meetings properly in order to get the business done, ultimately. I did attend a few events, and we did have to discuss our goals. Our goals for this year is to obviously become more efficient in the business, which I think we kind of figured out last year. We have our hands on that. And ultimately, I would love to commemorate all the work that we do this year with an event in the spring of next year, just making the resources available for everything that's related to land use. We have a lot of angles that we have a lot of opportunities, we have a lot of tools that we could use to protect our community. Everyone has different ideas, but the communication and the conversation is long and vast. And everybody doesn't always have the same goals in mind. So I would love to have an event organized within our group to make those resources available to the community at large. Having the information in here is great, but getting that information out to as many people as possible so they know how to defend themselves or how to conduct themselves in certain situations when they arise, or even knowing somebody that knows that information that could coordinate something to help them get through a situation that may be just out of our reach or not when our meetings are held is very important. Information is important, and continuing education is important, which is why we're always going to have, on a monthly basis, the goal is to have something that's going to educate us. Tonight we have Ms. Martinez and Brooklyn Level Up doing a presentation on community land trusts. It's just something that's always spoken about, but we're always going to try to have it palatable and distribute that information in doses just enough so that you have an idea of what we're speaking about. And if we get enough feedback on it, we'll double back and make sure that we'll give it the respect and the attention it deserves moving forward. And with that, I'd like to end my chairperson's report. Any questions? Hearing none. Anything in the chat? Negative. Excellent. The next area on the agenda is unfinished business. Do we have any unfinished business from the last calendar year that we'd like to discuss now? The floor is open. Anybody? No unfinished business. Great. The time and efficiency is excellent tonight. Moving on to new business. Like to introduce one of our committee members, Allison Martinez and Brooklyn Develop. Two.
Mr. Chair, point of order. Sorry, I'm sorry, I couldn't mute. Can you
Sorry.
hear me?
I can hear you now.
Okay, my apologies. Where that project on East 96th Street, does it fall under old business or where does it fall?
It could be an unfinished business. Sure. The 98th Street
Okay.
development project you're speaking of?
Yes.
With Mr. Goldstein? Yes. Esquire? Yeah. It's unfinished business. You have a question about it?
Yes, when are we going to be addressing it? Because was presented several months ago, and we would all hate for this to take place without community involvement. So what's the timeline on that project?
Definitely been aggressively reaching out to them. I haven't been reaching out to them via telephone because, that was frowned upon last year. The emails have been going out. And I just don't think that they're prepared to speak to us at this time. They did give us the information as a leapfrog to let us know that they were doing it, but I don't know if they have their ducks in a row to speak to us. We know that they have to, but I don't think that they're prepared. I'll continue to reach out, but I'm pretty sure that when they're ready, they'll come and contact us. But I have been aggressively trying to find information for them and get them to come before us, but they haven't been willing. Does that answer your question, Ms. James?
I mean, it's still concerning as to if they're moving along the project and we're not participating in being able to express our views, could be problematic. That's my concern.
Yeah, I have the same concerns, but unfortunately, I don't think that the project's moved forward officially. I can't say that for sure, but we know that in order for them to actually do certain things with the way that they're trying to, change that zoning in that particular area, they have to communicate with us. There's no way around it. Ms. Bennett?
Oh, yes, I'm with Ms. James. I'd like to be kept updated on what's going on with them, not being left out of that loop. Because if they're going to try to push something through over us, I think we need to keep vigilant and keep a good watch on what they're doing.
Definitely keeping an eye on them. Thank you, Ms. Bennett. Also, during one of the retreats, I did communicate and actually hand my phone over to Congresswoman Mealy, and actually made her read my email, our email that we constructed as a team together out loud. She gave me a card and a contact for someone in our office. I composed something to reach out to him, and I still haven't gotten a response. So I am going to call her office and call the contact person to get their point. Ideal last year was to try to get any council member that was affected in the affected area just to see what their ask and wants were. I could say for certain that our email was delivered directly to the councilwoman, and she did read it. She did communicate with me that she does want to be involved in our process, but I will have to follow up with her. Like always, she was a hard person to get in contact with, and the opportunity came and I didn't let it pass. Mr. Price?
How do I raise my hand? How do I raise my hand? I don't know how to operate this thing. How do I raise my hand?
You can speak, Ms. Cook.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't know it was on. Oh, good afternoon. I have a question. The name of the project that you were talking about?
Yeah.
I am not familiar with the project, and I was just looking at my notes, and I don't have anything on that project. Can you just repeat the name of the project and where it's located? Thank you.
There's no particular name for the project yet because it's still in the concept phase, but the location of the project is on 98th Street and Rutland Road by Kings Highway. It's basically the square block. It takes up the entire block in that particular area. Just give me your email and I'll actually forward you the link with the documents. I have like a Dropbox that has all of the proposal documents, it has concept drawings, it has a narrative of what they're building. It's up to 1 million square feet in commercial mixed use and residencies. for that particular area. So you just get that to me and I'll make sure that you have it just so you stay informed.
Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you.
Can I jump in now?
Yes, absolutely, Mr. Price.
No problem. Good afternoon, good evening, everybody. I forgot to unmute myself when I was answering and then Ms. Cook went in, so I just let it go. I apologize for the music in the background. My hood does not know when the weekend is. I was saying in the chat that I've done some research on the people involved I've done some research on the ownership of East 98th Street redevelopment, if you wanted to hear a little bit about that.
Yeah, sure, share. Absolutely.
The first thing is, so it's just a point of clarification. It's the 2 blocks between Rutland Road and Kings Highway on East 98th Street under the train tracks, all of which is actually zoned for commercial right now. So there's gonna have to be a rezoning for that as well. And it's specifically zoned not to have residential, which is interesting. And it's also they actually also own, and I think as part of the redevelopment are looking at a slice of the corner around on Kings Highway.
Yeah, they actually don't have all of the parcels yet. They are like combining. This is all in the documentation that we
Right.
had.
So this is what's interesting. They're all owned by different LLCs, but they're basically 3 brothers.
Yes.
And the only parcel they don't own is the C-Town and the parking lot across from the C-Town. And from what I'm hearing from those people, they're not trying to give that up, and that's on Winthrop.
Yeah, I think there was I think in the narrative they did mention that. They did mention that there were a couple of parcels, but the narrative kind of made it seem as if they were partnering with them. They might be doing a deal where they may develop it and then, give them a newly renovated store at the floor grounds and build it.
In my recent conversations with a cousin of the owner, as of right now, that's not on the table.
That deal is not on the table.
That deal is not on the table.
That information is priceless because now we know that, there is some chinks in the armor, but that may be the reason why they haven't been in communication, So I haven't forgotten about it. I have nightmares about it. So
yeah.
I'm always I drive over there, I look over there, I see what's going on, but thank you. Do you have anything else?
Yeah, a couple more things.
Sure.
Those LLC, they own something, they own over 120 different LLCs. And they also happen to manage a series of apartment buildings along Kings Highway in the 90s over here. So in terms of putting pressure on them, we could also, in the future, if this is something we want to do, start looking at their tenants and how they feel about their ownership and their development of the area.
Okay.
And the third thing that I will say is that it turns out the city has another development happening around the corner underneath Livonia, I think it is, along the train tracks, like a stop away by Saratoga Avenue.
The city.
The city.
Okay.
And I can get you some more information on that.
I'm not sure if that falls within our zoning, but
it's not within our zoning, which is why we never would have thought about the fact that they're doing both of those things. But there's already going to be a development happening, literally a train stop and a half away, that's supposed to be doing the same idea, some new, some affordable. And the affordable, I think, is specific to seniors.
Can I ask a question? Excuse me. I'm sorry, I didn't raise my hand, Marguerite. Mr. Price, do you know if that city development, if that area has to be rezoned for that too? Or is that already?
I don't know. I haven't looked into it, but I actually came across it because I was messing around one Saturday afternoon waiting for a game to start and happened to turn to the planning commission on City TV and it popped up.
Well, it would be interesting to know if they have to get.
But I will look into that. From what I remember, it's that development along Livonia. Is it Livonia? I want to say it's Livonia. But it's all under the track. It's on the south side of the track, and at least half of it right now is empty lots.
Hmm.
And one of the few things in the way of that happening right now is actually this one store that happens to be on the corner with a whole empty lot behind it. And that owner's being smart, I guess, and holding out.
Okay, thank you.
I can get more information. I just need to, I've had a lot going on this summer. I thought I had another couple of weeks to prepare to actually talk about this.
I appreciate it, Mr. Price. Any information is valuable, you know? And that's also the goal, keeping your eyes out and paying attention to what's going on in a particular area, you know? That's not information that we would be privy to. So having that information in front of us, understanding that information and having it in front of us, so when they are ready to present, is very important. I will like to, I'm gonna get with maybe Ms. James, and we're gonna try to see if there's another way that we could actually try to bring them to the table. You know, they have to be comfortable enough to do it though, unfortunately. You know, that ball is in their court, but like Mr. Price said, with the concept drawings that are in hand, getting that addendum or that variance is not gonna happen without our communication and input. So that protection right now is still in place. We've seen in the past that there are ways around that, so we do need to pay attention to it, but that's our only saving grace at the moment. Do we have any other unfinished business? Excellent. Excellent. Moving on to new business. Sorry, Allison. Oh, wait. Ms. Bennett, did you have a question?
I did. I'd just like to know the updates on the rezoning.
Excuse me?
The rezoning, what was going on with the rezoning?
Oh, we have a secondary part of our meeting that's specifically catered for that. And after we do our business, we will go into the rezoning portion, which Ms. James is in charge of.
Okay.
And you're talking about the contextual rezoning of our district, correct?
Yes.
Yes. We made provisions for that.
Oh.
Thank you, Ms. Bennett. We cool? Is there any other unfinished business? Excellent. At this time, I hand the floor over to Allison Martinez, Brooklyn Level Up, and Rachel Goodfred. Absolutely. Take it away.
Thank you. Rachel's gonna share screen.
Yep, just getting it queued up. Sorry. Here we go. Let me maximize it. That might not be the.
You have to go to present.
Okay. Should I do presenter view or standard?
Presenter view.
Okay, sorry everyone. I think it's just loading. All right, can everyone see the slides? Can anyone see the slides?
You're showing, you have to show the other screen. Yeah.
Did that work?
You have to switch it so that you're showing the audience view. And take that screen off.
Should we get started with an introduction of us while I...
You want me to do it? Then.
No, I got it.
Okay.
But
sorry about that.
You want to get just started with our introduction?
Sure. So welcome everyone. Thank you so much for having Brooklyn Level Up. Wanted to just open up by saying thank you for the work that we've done together thus far and last year working on the tax lien sale door-to-door campaign and looking forward to what we can do together this year. I'm just hoping that the CP17 will have a great session writ large for all of the communities, for all of the committees that we work with. So tonight we're going to do a shortened version of our community land trust training, which when we do the full version, which we've done with some other council members actually, what it allows us to do is have breakout sessions. So hopefully in the future, we'll be able to do that as well, so that we get some more visioning and feedback from the community that we can share and train. So the agenda for tonight, go to the next slide.
Okay, you can see it.
Yeah, but you know what, let me do it. Yeah, because this isn't, I know that won't work. So hold on one second. Sorry about this.
Six, seven.
All right. So can everyone see the agenda for tonight?
Yeah.
So we've basically gone through, we'll go through some introductions. We'll talk about CLTs in general, and then we will talk about the history of them, the purpose, what we can do in terms of education and advocacy, how CLTs get land, a couple of case studies so we can see how they work and functions around in other parts of the country, as well as right here in New York, some governance basics and some next steps, and then we'll have some time for some discussion. So intros, I'm Allison Martinez. This is Rachel Goodfriend. You know us as former co-chairs of the Land Use Committee, but Brooklyn Level Up is the 501c3 community development corporation that we founded during the pandemic, actually, that was born from the work that we did as chairs and the experiences that we had, but expanded to support also entrepreneurship support, as well as a full-on community land trust. We are also part of, oh, sorry, this is Rachel. Yeah. Nicely.
We're part of the basically the New York City coalition of organizations that are working to build community land trusts or who are already community land trusts. They're part of this coalition called NICELY, or the New York City Community Land Initiative. And we are members of that coalition. And we have been working with them to make sure that New York City does policies to support CLTs and also gets funding to support CLTs. NICELY was formed in 2012, and they started by an initiative by Picture the Homeless. Is this one mine too? Yes. So, you know, we use community land trust a lot, the term. It can mean different things. There's not one inherent thing that is a community land trust, but what it has been established as and what we think of it as is a nonprofit organization that collectively owns and stewards land for the community. So this question of what does it mean to steward land for the community is a question that we want to think about with you, because at the end of the day, the CLT is supposed to be responsive to how the community wants to steward the land.
Now I'll just go through some of the history of CLTs. If you are in any part of New York City tonight, then we first have to acknowledge that we are on the land of the Lenni Lenape people, which were one of the first stewards of land within this country, and the indigenous community that was actually violently removed from it. So we have to always in our work make sure that we are level setting by recognizing who was here first, the values that they actually imparted and lived by, and where we can use our collective work together through a community land trust to honor that past and build it into our plans for how we operate with one another in the future. Now, in the present day, one of the first CLTs that actually existed in the United States was called New Communities. It was started in Georgia in 1969 as actually a reaction to the displacement of Black farmers. You can actually watch this documentary called The Arc of Justice, which really details the history of that movement. And then actually now there are over 200 CLTs all over the country. And in New York City, our local history, the first one is actually Cooper Square CLT, which you may be familiar with. There's also a documentary for that, but it's harder to see, which is called It Took 50. Right now, Nicely, which is, as Rachel said, the coalition of all of the existing CLTs in New York City, has 22 members, but every day that can change as people start to organize and try to band together in the face of massive displacement. You're on mute.
Oh, sorry, everyone. I'm coming back from maternity leave, unaware how to use technology anymore. Okay, so CLTs can also have many different purposes, but we have talked about using it in our community for a while with the Land Use Committee and Community Board to kind of combat all of the real estate speculation that's been going on in our neighborhoods. Since land here is now such a hot commodity, especially housing and residential spaces, our neighborhoods are becoming more exclusive and expensive, as we all have seen. So community land trusts offer organized communities an alternative, a way to take land out of the typical market and ensure it's used to develop housing or other community facility spaces that are affordable for the long term. So part of the work that we want to do and have done is educating people around CLTs, but also different ways we can secure our homes, our neighbors' homes, and also just secure the wealth and future of our neighborhood for the long term for people who already live here. And that can be through trust and estates planning, home ownership strategies, financial literacy, tenant and home ownership advocacy, anti-displacement tools, and government program application assistance. You know, there are some really good programs out there, but the bureaucracy is such that people are not able to apply for these benefits. So we are trying to bridge that gap and make sure that people are taking advantage of all of these programs and that these services and programs are in our neighborhoods and not just in other neighborhoods. And we are part of, like we said, with Nicely, they do a lot of organizing campaigns with activist groups and things. And the main theme there is public land for public good. We're trying to get New York City to have a law that any public land that is kind of RFP'd or being transferred to groups are given to CLTs rather than private developers. And then there's some other legislation in line with that, like the Tenant Opportunity to Purchase Act, which would give renters possibly the opportunity to purchase the buildings that they are renting, the Community Opportunity to Purchase Act, and abolish the New York City tax lien sale, which is something we've worked on in the Land Use Committee, but also a lot at Brooklyn Level Up, where we're trying to prevent people who are just having a hard time paying their real estate taxes from losing their homes. And when buildings are taken by the city because of back taxes, it's our belief and the belief of many organizations in the city that those buildings should go to CLTs. They should go to the community rather than being foreclosed on, put on, sold on auction to these private developers that are then just flipping them and it's causing gentrification.
Shout out to Joan Erskine, who is a CLT, a Brooklyn Level Up board member and also a member of this committee. You can see her in the bottom speaking. Okay.
So how do CLTs get land? This is the big question, especially in New York City, because land here is so expensive. This is something that CLTs across the city really struggle with. There's a lot of energy behind the organizing and the educating, and groups are organized and ready to get land, but it's just hard to get it. So one way to get land is what I was talking about. The city would grant publicly owned properties to CLTs when it's appropriate. Another way to get land is for CLTs to buy the properties. And this would require a lot of fundraising and creative investment strategies to make that happen. And then there's always eminent domain. You know, when we see properties, especially in our neighborhood, that might have been in construction for like 15 years. You know, these buildings aren't done yet, and they're just fooling around with these construction sites. Something like that, we think the city should be able to take control of those sites and transfer them to community land trusts so that things can be built, those sites can be put to use for the community.
So now we just want to give like a moment to look at some case studies. This first one is Africa Town, which was a CLT created in Seattle, Washington. They were able to mobilize the community to get shares in the Liberty Bank building, which allowed people of color who were seeing themselves dwindle in Seattle in terms of population, able to find a way to actually have home ownership and be able to maintain their cultural space and relevance within the community. This is a video that we'll watch, but this is more of a reading video, just so you know. That's just a good example of how a CLT can really be modeled to do cultural preservation work and really strategize to help communities maintain their heritage and be able to plan for the future collectively. Next, what we have is a case study of the East New York CLT, which is one of our neighbors. And this is where the strength of rural advocacy work really makes a difference in terms of preparing for what is possible in the community.
I'm gonna be honest, historically, there hasn't been an appetite to see middle class and low income people strive to be anything.
Yesterday, they said that Black and brown people couldn't afford or couldn't own their own home, that we weren't responsible. But we, the East New York CLT, are here to make a change. We are here to change their minds.
And East New York is one of the last communities of color that hasn't fully been transformed by gentrification and displacement. Right now, it's the perfect opportunity for us to make our stand and say that there are other ways that our communities get to develop without displacement.
As I stand here and I look at this particular NYPD police parking lot, which is actually owned by HPD, which goal and purpose is to build housing, but right now it's just a parking lot.
We have to change the narrative. There's no way that people who have lived in this community for decades, raised their families here, gone to school here, worked here, cannot afford to own here.
A community land trust is a tool to address housing and economic injustice in our community.
The CLT is a nonprofit organization governed by a board of community residents that treats land as a public good. A CLT acquires and holds land to ensure that it is always used in ways that benefit the local community.
We're really in a time where we're able to shift what housing means, and instead of housing being a commodity, this is an opportunity to create housing as a right.
We are boots on the ground in the community. We have surveyed over 250 lots right here in East New York that are city-owned, which are vacant. We can be using it for housing. We can be using it for public spaces. We can be using it for locally owned business commercial spaces. East New York CLT are the pride of East New York.
We are East New York CLT.
They are the community. They are the mothers, the fathers, the daughters, the brothers.
East New York CLT is people like me, everyday Jane and John Does, who really want to see their community evolve.
The black and brown people that live in this community are East New York CLT.
I want to say that the CLT is probably the best of the best that this neighborhood has to offer of people.
To me, it has meant friendship, unity.
More than affordable, it's sustainable. Ownership.
Stability.
Unlimited generational wealth. Because it's a new venture. It's a revolution in the way that we look at affordable ownership.
We are stronger, united. And if you want to be a part of a dynamic team to help further that cause along, the East New York Community Land Trust is where it's at.
I wanted to show that because there's so many similarities between our neighbors and what we are experiencing that it's a model of what's possible. Yes, we don't have as much publicly available land as they do, but we definitely have the land that we could work with, and we have an opportunity to work together to make sure that we are addressing the needs of our community in a way that is self-determined and is sure to help us stay here and stave off some of the gentrification and overdevelopment that we've seen.
There's different ways that CLTs can be governed. So different ways that the boards can be set up and, the mission statements can be set up. They, at the core of the structure though, they're democratically governed and they're run by a board of directors. The main model that we look at is one where there is a board that has three parts. One part is residents. So people on the board are residents of the properties or the buildings that the CLT owns or will own. Then 1/3 of the board are community members, people who live in the neighborhoods where the CLT exists. And another 1/3 of the board are people who are advisors, who might be experts in real estate or different relevant fields that would help the CLT prosper. There are different committees and groups that would make the CLT possible. So first, the CLT can start with a group of people that would be the steering committee, and that steering committee could decide how the board would be formed. So is it going to be an election, how that election would run. And then there is the moment when the CLT is formed, and there needs to be people who are the incorporators and the initial directors of the CLT at that time.
So in terms of structure, there are actually 4 models that could be employed. This is one of the decisions that we would have to make as a steering committee and as a community about what fits best for our intentions. One is the classic CLT model, which is run by individuals. And that means that the CLT residents who live in the buildings, they have a representative they vote for. Then the community at large, they have a neighborhood rep that they would vote for. And then collectively, the neighbors and the residents would vote for someone else to be like a sponsor, basically to help steward and provide technical and professional support. Then there's a model of having a single existing organization where it's essentially the CLT is a part of a program that a trusted organization in the community would have. Usually one that has housing-related experience or has shown a commitment to community going forward and has a set of rules and procedures and processes that are in alignment with the community's intentions. Thirdly, there's the model where an existing organization or community-based organization would then have create another business, which is a subsidiary under it, which is a CLT corporation. And that would have a separate board that would, attend to the stewardship of land. And lastly, there would be the other option is a board of organizations that are known in the community who have representatives or residents who can vote, they would choose, and then they would each have a spot on that board. And they would speak on behalf of different interests or specific groups or different needs that the community has identified need to have representation there. But all of those are decisions that need to be fleshed out and decided. Lastly, we wanted to, part of the work that we do, and it has to do with this, is also figuring out the vision and the why that we do this stuff that we're doing here, why we're actually gathering here. What is it that the community needs to work towards, the issues that they face? And this is a video that gives you a good opportunity to see what another community has done in terms of identifying and delivering what the breadth of work that a CLT can take on.
When we moved here as a family, the whole community was just really devastated.
The neighborhood was dealing with arson for profit, white flight from the city, increase in crime, and illegal dumping.
This vacant parcel here was just littered. In back of the house, that was a car graveyard. They used to steal cars and just dump them there. At 9 or 10 years old, all these lots were vacant. I was in the window, I'd come home, and if I was doing my homework, I might stop and take a break and see a truck pull up to go dump a refrigerator, and I'd run out and I'd write down the license plate number, give it to him to make sure people were excited for doing that. A lot of us who moved here became the pioneers of the community, if you will, and stuck it out, saying, this is what we want and this is what we'll work for.
25 years ago, we created the Dudley Street Neighborhood Initiative to organize in this neighborhood. Residents had called for a neighborhood that would have safe streets, the neighborhood that would be green and clean, the neighborhood that would have affordable housing.
We've done a tremendous job in stabilizing the community, but we still have a lot of work to do.
Nothing comes easy. And that's something that we've learned in this neighborhood a long time ago. That if you want it, you're gonna have to work for it.
By raising our voices, it is the most powerful thing you can imagine.
My passion is activism. I focus primarily on helping youth get jobs.
I really want to assist in finding ways and means to stop the killing and the violence in the Roxbury community.
Those of us that live in here, those of us that work in here, need to be involved.
These 42 candidates showed a depth of leadership and activism in the community that will lead DS&I for the next 2 years.
DS&I, the Dudley Street Neighborhood Initiative, is a neighborhood planning and community organizing agency that allows for the residents of this neighborhood to demand the best and build the partnerships to make that work for them.
We want to help get the residents what they need, but not by doing it for them, by helping organize the residents to do it for themselves.
Just because we've improved how the neighborhood looks. If we sit on the fact that we've had some successes, then we're fools. The economic downturn puts all types of stress on neighborhoods like ours. And there's a real threat that the foreclosure crisis can take us back a few decades. And so we're looking at it and saying to people, come out and be a part of this movement to improve your neighborhood. We believe that everybody in the neighborhood is an organizer. That in fact, everyone in the neighborhood is an agent for change.
I think that's one of the most important things we want to impart is that being a member of the community board, that's an opportunity, but it's to be an agent of change. But it's also an opportunity to reach out to other people in the community and bring them aboard to being in the CLT, so meet them where they are so that they can also be able to make changes and identify the needs that we have so that we can address them. I think you can, from the video, you can see certain issues that they were experiencing that are realities that we face here as well. But the question is, what are we going to do collectively to make a difference?
So there's some real next steps that we can take as a community and that Brooklyn Level Up has started to take to form a CLT. We have looked at the geographic area of the CLT being East Flatbush, Flatbush, and Flatlands, because East New York has their CLT, and these neighborhoods are kind of where the community board coalesces. We've started discussions that are part of the education around what CLTs are so that more community members can feel empowered to be involved in the formation of it. And we want to make sure that the CLT efforts focus on not just residential, but also commercial and community spaces. And we're here because we want to let everyone know that if you're interested in learning more about a CLT or helping us build a CLT for our neighborhood, please connect with us. We need more people to, be dedicated to working on this and getting the word out and making sure that people who might not be able to show up to these meetings are involved. So connecting with all of you so that you can connect further with your networks will just make this more successful.
So now we can go into discussion.
Yeah.
You see the questions in the chat.
Yeah, we had one person. I'm going to try to just step in at this moment just so that in the consideration of time, I had Mr. Lewis had his hand raised and I asked everyone to put questions in the chat so that we could kind of get through this efficiently. So Mr. Lewis, you can unmute yourself and ask your question.
So yeah, good night, everybody. One of my concerns is, in particular, with the infrastructure part, when it comes to developing the right organizations to help build once this land trust committee gains properties and starts to build. For me, I'm an MBE contractor, electrical contractor. And I know for sure that the private developers have all their ducks in a row, ready to, as soon as they buy a property, they bring in all these people who don't live in our neighborhood, they come and take all the money out of our neighborhood and they go. So for me in particular, I want to know how, in particular, does the CLT go in terms of getting those people who have the skills and the ability, in particular, when it comes to building. We talk about affordable housing. Governor Huckle has signed $25 billion in terms of affordable housing that is to come to New York City. They're looking at renovating all of these abandoned hotels, and there should be additional monies there for affordable housing that also came from Mayor de Blasio, etc.
Okay, Mr. Lewis, your question for the organization is,
How does the organization go about getting those people who particularly live in the neighborhood that have business acumen, that have credentials to build, to do construction management, to do project management, etc. when it comes to that? Because I would hate for us to promote everything about the community and not look at all the aspects in terms of the business part in building. And that's one of my greatest concerns, that we could have a community organization, and then what ends up happening, they turn around and say, well, we can't find the people to build it, so someone else comes in based on that to perform that kind of work, and the same economics that is talked about before is not equally disposed among the people who have the ability in the community.
Mr. Lewis, Allison, your response to that is?
Part of that is leveraging the relationships that we're building, the membership of the CLT as well, because remember, it's a tripartite board. Part of it is also people who have a skill set, and it's the partnerships we build are with mission-based developers, so that we know that equity is a very important part of the work that we're doing and that we want to do. So the projects that we take on would have that as part of making sure that there's equity in terms of getting people in our community to have first dibs on jobs, to be able to have apprenticeships and trainings. That's out the work. It also is, part of that is also the advocacy piece for the policy changes that we work on and support through our, in partnership with our elected officials, so that policies like COPA, where the community gets to have first dibs and leverage when it comes to funding to acquire property. Those are, especially if it's something where the city has a public space, that we can then leverage that being a CLT to be first in line and beat out the private developers who are in this, who are usually the winners in this case. But that's the legislative work that we have to do as well. So there's a lot of different components. It's not it's not always going to work. I'm not going to promise you the pie in the sky, but when that is our focus and we partner with mission-based developers who also believe in that work, then that's when we're more likely to have those things as at the bargaining table.
Thank you, Allison. Mr. Lewis, does that answer your question satisfactorily?
It does to a point, but I would have to see in the future, and in particular, I will be a part of that, because this has to be reinforced. And what I see is that the base blanket a lot of the things. So they would say minority, but minority could include East Indian, Pakistani, this one, that one. It's not specifically for Black people. So they would use that as, as a thing to say, well, we have minorities working for us. So I will be a part of those who are part of that, hopefully the advisory, to make sure that we are strategic, as well as that we are trying to be, how I could put it, intentional in terms of making sure that our people in our neighborhood are the ones that get to do what needs to get done. And that's what my main thing would be.
Can you put your email in the chat for us? Because we want to make sure we connect and involve you. Because, yeah, we are aware exactly what you're talking about. Our CLT goals don't have to match like the state, like what you're saying. The MWBE goals aren't specifically for Black-owned businesses, it's minority, but the CLT could incorporate some requirements for doing business with specifically Black-owned businesses. So yeah, please drop your email in the chat for us.
Thank you. In the interest of moving the meeting along, I just want to get a couple of more questions answered. There's a question in the chat from Ms. Rona Taylor. Tax lien legislation expired earlier this year. Do you have any sense of what this administration is planning to do in its place? If you could answer that in 2 minutes, that would be great.
I would defer to Joan Erskine on that. We don't know exactly what will happen going forward with this. The coalition, the Abolish the Tax Lien Sale Coalition has definitely worked together to put forth some proposals for what would be an equitable distribution. Really, it's pulling those to the CLTs, but I don't believe we have had any traction going forward with an answer. Anyone who's actually interested in becoming part of the CLT, please feel free to drop your information in the chat as well.
Excellent.
This is Joan Erskine. I don't know how to raise my hand, but I represent Brooklyn Level Up on the Abolish the Tax Lien Sale Coalition, and I can tell you what the city is planning, which they're not planning anything right now, which is the problem, because although the tax lien sale did sunset, it ran out of, it has to be authorized. Its authorization ran out, but we're afraid that if we don't have a viable alternative to offer, then they'll just go, oh my God, how do we get the money? I know, tax lien sale. And we want to make sure that we've offered them something viable beyond that. So we've developed this short, little, easy to read 50-page document on exactly what we feel should replace the tax lien sale. And one of the things this proposal does is that properties do get not necessarily definitely turned over to CLTs, but that's an option all the way along the line, so that people can stay in their homes, that the land doesn't go to developers. So we're working on that. If you're interested in more information, I'll put my email in the chat, and I'll try to give you as much information as I can. As I say, it's a short, little, easy to read 50-page document, but I'll do my best.
Thank you, Ms. Erskine. Second question is from Marguerite Vigilante. Is there a conflict of interest if private developers get involved in these organizations? Anybody? Rachel? Rachel, did you hear the question? Allison?
Okay. Hold on 1 second.
Okay.
I didn't hear the question. Can you repeat it?
Is there a conflict of interest if private developers get involved in these organizations?
No, it's about alignment. So, I mean, if the mission and the vision is aligned in terms of centering community at the table to develop projects that make sense and start with talking with community about what they want to see instead of just coming forward projects, then I don't see that as a conflict of interest.
Can I just follow up and ask you another question?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So Allison, I guess what I meant is that if you don't see it as a conflict of interest, does that mean that we would be willing to work with private developers as the umbrella organization for
So sorry, I finally got myself off mute. So a private developer would never be the umbrella organization of the Community Land Trust, right? Because the Community Land Trust at its core is governed by community members. So a developer is never going to be the umbrella organization. However, the CLT, if it wanted to build build new buildings or renovate existing buildings, would have to work with a developer, right? We have to work with a group of experienced people to construct these spaces. I think what was mentioned before is that we should first and foremost look within the community for construction businesses, developers, architects who are from the community. And that's something that is very realistic and we could do. Is there a possibility too that there would be a developer to help construct a building that like Allison is saying, is maybe they're not from the community, but their mission is aligned. Sure, that's a possibility too. But yeah, at the end of the day, right? Like we have to develop the buildings, so you'd have to have a developer. But who those developers and construction workers and architects are can all be decided by the CLT.
Excellent. And the final question, because we want to be able to move on, because we do have some business to conduct tonight, is from our secretary, Tamara Thomas. How does the CLT model work for creating green spaces? Communities of color have a lot of people, but not enough places, public spaces for these people. Is a BLU priority? Not sure what that
is. Is this a priority for Brooklyn Level Up? I think so. Yeah, absolutely. First of all, community land trust can absolutely create green space if that is what the community expresses and desires. It doesn't have to just create buildings. And it is definitely a priority for Brooklyn Level Up. Green space is a priority. We were part of the Flatbush African Burial Ground Coalition that helped to stop the RFP of the vacant or open site of formerly or really current grave site for formerly enslaved people. And the call is to turn that into green space or a memorial. So we've worked on green space projects, and then also CLTs can absolutely establish green spaces.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You guys want to close out?
Just to thank you. I think that there's a lot of energy behind this, even within this group. So again, I want to make sure we have anyone's email address in the chat if you want to get involved. And we will contact you tonight so that we can figure out how we can all work together. And thank you all for being here.
Thanks for your return. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Excellent. Excellent. To put a pin in it, this is just another one of the many munitions in the war chest that we're trying to use to defend our community from rapid development and keeping the characteristics of the community the way we want it to be. You know, there's ideas, it's not just a one-trick pony. There's many tools and facets that could be used. So broadening our ideas to understand what's out there and what's available, knowing what resources we can use, and knowing what options we have is imperative. So thank you for Brooklyn Level Up for doing the presentation tonight. It was informative. We're going to try to keep that energy moving forward. Like we said, information is key. That might actually be our catchphrase for the year. But moving the agenda along and in the respect of time, we're going to speak with Mr. Alton Amable from Tropical Fet. He's going to do a presentation for us. Ultimately, he's looking to get a letter of support for a property that he's looking to acquire. So I'm going to pass the floor over to Mr. Amable and his colleague, Mr. Marcel, to speak with us. The floor is yours. You're muted, Mr. Amable.
I'd like to say thanks for the Community Board Land Use Committee for having us for a presentation. I'm going to start off by having Mr. Marcel introduce himself, and I'll do a quick introduction and a quick presentation in the interest of time. So go ahead, Mr. Marcel.
Good evening, everyone. Again, as Mr. Amable said, thanks for having us here tonight to make our presentation. My name is Keith Marcel. I'm a board member of Tropical Fet, and as I indicated before, I'm also a resident of the East Flatbush area. I've been here for 4 years now. I love the area. I'm looking forward to working to develop some community-based coalitions to help move the community along further. That is part of what Tropical Fet is about. A lot of people look at us as a cultural organization. Yes, we do, but we use the culture to bring in particularly the youth of the community, so that they can come in and learn from what we have to offer. Anyway, from costume making to woodwork to sewing, number of different things. So again, I'll just turn over to Walton and let him continue to make the presentation. Again, thank you very much for having us here tonight.
So I'm starting off by saying we are part of the community. We currently work in 6 public schools in Brooklyn, including I think 2 in the district. We also work in senior centers in the district, including the one on Clarendon Road and also St. Augustine doing cultural programming. My purpose here is to ask for a letter of support on behalf of Tropical Fit for a vacant property space that we see on Catello in New York. The address is 1174 New York. And looking in Acris, I see it's owned by the City Department of Finance with some ties to, I think, the Bank of New York. What we would like to do with this space is just have a home for our youth to come, be productive, be creative. We do the performing arts, but we also teach them the production aspect of things, like Mr. Keith said. Example, sewing your costumes, welding, doing the woodwork for the stills. We are very active in the community. We are funded through the Department of Cultural Affairs, through the City Council, and through the state. Currently, we rent space per hour for rehearsals, and we have storage space. And we would, like to see if that money could actually go back into the city in terms of us getting a space rather than renting out a space, and therefore giving us the capacity to accommodate for more students, more work that we could do, etc. I have a video to share with you guys. New to this platform, so just bear with me for a second. This one.
It seems as though our audio on the video is acting up, but what's on the screen is the rooms and the activities that we want to. For instance, this room will be one in the music room for the steel pan and the stilts. As we come out of here, you would see artwork all along the walls. One of the things we always want to do is to always portray the community in artwork. This room here is the video room where we can do our own video and teach kids and stuff how to do and make videos. This area would be the main lobby area, and I believe this is the reception front area. Going down here would be the restrooms, 2 of them. That's one, and the other one is closer to the window. That's the other one there. Right. When you go back out to the reception area, you see, of course, the elevators to the right. You go back across the reception area, and you have the seating area, which would be lounge area. This is a IT room where we would not only do IT work, but teach some of the youngsters the IT. This is a recording studio. We do teach and make recordings. This room, I didn't quite see what it was. Okay, this is a workshop room. This is a room where we will be doing the woodwork, welding, sewing, all these type of things, have these classes and workshops and stuff like that. Coming out of that, I guess it's going back to the reception area. Some other rooms that you may not have been able to see. Well, this is like a lounge area in the back of the reception area, probably for staff and, you know, activities of that nature. Some of the other rooms that you would have probably not able to see was that rooms where we have a conference room, and we have set it up so that either having meetings in-house or with city officials or whomever, we have that conference room. So that's part of what you missed. Walton?
Yes, sorry about the video. One of the things I want to mention, I think, from the previous presentation, we talk a lot about affordable housing. There's also an issue about affordable community space. A lot of not-for-profits who have gotten in bed with some developers have also gone out of business because it wasn't a fair deal for them. You know, very knowledgeable about the process in terms of working with developers. And, you know, our heart and our passion is for the community. And we would just like a space to be creative to explore. One of the things I noticed, and we trying to develop in terms of transportation for people to get to our location where we currently have practice, there's nothing in the South or Central Brooklyn that we could say is, oh, we could send the kids there to actually learn violin, learn a guitar, learn steel pan, just learn something creative and develop it. We always have to go to Manhattan or the other side of Brooklyn, and that's, you know, what we want to just create, you know, a gem for our community. And again, the main question for us is affordability in terms of community space, similar to affordable space for housing. So I'll leave it there for, you know, any questions
Yeah,
about the organizations or our project.
I'll jump in just to make sure that we could run through this efficiently and for the interest of time. Ms. Viglianti, you have your hand raised. You have a question?
Yes, I have a few questions. I can run through them real fast. Just first, what was the address? I didn't get that.
1174 New York Avenue?
1174. Is that the corner property?
Correct.
Okay. And so how large is that space?
I don't have that information with me right now. And the video that you saw is basically our dream. And I know it has to be tweaked based on the property itself and where exactly we might find a
And
permit.
it's two floors, right?
Correct. You're
So
absolutely
you're buying the space, the building, right?
we looking to see if the city could lease the space or whatever arrangement we could do with the city, because currently we get funding from the city to pay rent somewhere else.
So so if you lease it, you're gonna lease both floors?
Yes, most likely.
Okay, and just a couple other questions, sorry. Is it the type of space, it sounds like it's gonna be educational, but I have two concerns. One is the recording studio. Is that gonna be a recording studio for like students? Or is that gonna be a private recording studio? What is that?
That's for students, and our facility will be open to the public. Currently, we have members in our program from age 6 to, I think, we have seniors in the program because a block away we do programming at I think Clarendon and New York at the church down in the basement through CASA Cultural Immigrant Funding. So it's
Okay,
a community space.
so the studio, the recording studio can be rented by the public now. So anybody could come in there and
Anybody could come in there, but I think we have to develop protocols to ensure just the noise level and integrity of the space.
right. And so that just leads to my last question is, do you plan on having any like events there, or live entertainment or anything like that?
No, that's not part of the plan. Normally we do productions, maybe 4 major productions that the organization produce, maybe 4 times a year. Our last one was on Sunday in Times Square. The next production that we're going to be working on is most likely going to be at the Brooklyn it has always been at the Brooklyn Music Playhouse Theater downtown, but we might try to change that venue to another college in the area.
Okay,
But
so
it's
you wouldn't
not a
be
space.
using that space as a venue?
No, not for events, not for events.
Okay, great, thank you.
Does that answer your questions, Ms. Viglianti?
Yes, yes, thank you.
Excellent, excellent. It's my co-chair. Uh, question from Tamara Thomas in the chat is asking, could you give a sense of curriculum? Basically, she's asking for an example, your music instruction. I guess she wants to know like how you're teaching the kids, your method for teaching.
All right, so currently we teach steel pen, violin, guitar, drums, piano, and we also have a choir group. We do stilts. I will focus on steel pen for a second. We currently have an ensemble that goes out and do performances throughout the tri-state. And when we bring in people in to teach, we want to teach them not just how to play the instrument, but also music theory. We want to teach them the business aspect of things. What we want them to do is understand that they're acquiring a skill and that skill has value. So one of the models that we have used is when the kids, and we have quite a few teachers that have started with us in high school, elementary school, they go to college. And when they go to college, they are able to come back and actually help us out in the school and make some money that way. So that's one of our, business models in terms of keeping the kids engaged, that stay in New York, that don't go out and away to college, etc. And I'll be happy to point out any of those examples or bring those people on to testify to you if you are interested.
Just got our second question. She's asking, are the classes free?
Currently, all our classes are free. The city council has, blessed us with funding. DCLA has blessed us with funding. The council member has blessed us with funding. So we don't charge anything currently for our classes. In future, that may change. I'm hoping it's not, because I think me personally, as leading the organization, it's a question of equity, giving people an opportunity that they didn't have. Okay, well, it costs so much to learn violin. Okay, well, you can come and learn it for free. All we requiring from you is just to show a commitment that you're willing to be there every Saturday and utilize that time and that space, because someone else would be dying to get into that opportunity.
Understood. Ms. Viglianti, your hand is still raised. Did you have another follow-up question, or was that?
Oh, no, it was, I forgot to take it down.
Okay. And is there any other questions for the Tropical Fed team?
Yes.
Who's speaking?
This is Natalie Ferguson. I had my hand up. I think I put my hand up.
Yeah, I see your hand raised now. Go ahead, Ms. Ferguson.
Yes, my question is, do any of these classes include the special needs community?
So our program does address special needs. Prior to the pandemic, we were working with a few kids who had autism, and hopefully next time around later this year could get that back on stream. But working with the autistic community is key for us, and I have seen personally how it has affected and developed people's mind and be active. I know one example I could mention off the bat, like Alex, when his mom said he's autistic. When he first came into the program, he was moving slow, but now I'm like, this kid is not autistic because he just evolves. He plays the music all night. He comes to the studio prepared. So we do plan to, have special needs for anyone with a wheelchair. Any special needs, we will be addressing that.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Ferguson. I saw your question in the chat. I'm sorry I missed that. There's another question. Is asking where are you currently located, and where's your corporate office located? That was the first question. Sorry. Where's your corporate office located? And the secondary question is, where are you located at the moment?
All right, so currently we at a music studio called Complete Music Studio, where we store our equipment, and they have different studios downstairs that we rent per hour. roughly we rent per week, I think 10 hours per week for our steel band, our choir, our stills to do practice and performance. Not performances, but to get ready to do performances. That's Vanderbilt and St. Mark's is in that area. We work at various number of schools in your district as well as more schools in the Brownsville area, and more senior centers actually in the district that you guys represent. And there was another question.
Yeah, where are you currently, I guess, conducting your programs now?
So currently, programs, we work in the schools. I could name a few schools for you. PS 135, that's on Linden. IS 392, that's in Brownsville. IS free 23, that's also in Brownsville. IS 421, that's in Brownsville. In Canarsie, we are at 276. We're gonna be starting work, I think, also in the district at Great Oak Elementary School, doing steel pan arts and craft and music theory over there. And I think also on, I think, Nostrand, this school year, we're gonna be working, I think, with 381 on Nostrand, which is also in the district. In terms of the senior programming, we actually work with one senior place in the Bronx, the Hudson Senior Center. The Clarendon Road Senior Center, which is in Clarendon in New York. St. Augustine, which is on Avenue D. We work here, and Prospect Hill Senior Center. And those are, some of those funds are designated through the City Council and through the Department of Aging in the state. So these are the places we work in a nutshell all over Brooklyn.
Thank you. Let me just make sure that there aren't any other follow-up questions. Do you have a contact number or website they're asking for?
Yes, tropicalfed.com. You could follow us on Instagram, Facebook. I'm one who likes letting the work speak for itself. I'm proud of, our teaching artists. I'm proud of the students, and I feel my job is to just provide them opportunities, and then if we're able to get a space and just grow from there and just blossom for our community, that's what I'm looking for.
Okay. Somebody's asking, what's your hours of operation?
Proposed hours of operation would be 7 days a week. Regular business hours, not late nights, because we are in a residential area. I know that we'll be doing music, so therefore, the walls will be protected, whereby noise, wouldn't affect the community. We have rehearsed in the community, whether it's indoors, outdoors, in the parks. It has always been a friendly atmosphere. We work with the NYPD numerous times. I think we have a barbecue coming up on the 10th with the 67 precinct, where we're gonna have our stills and some steel pans to interact with them on their barbecue. So we are very community engaged, and the work speaks for itself. I did email a brief history about the Tropical Fed and what we do. So if you could share that with your community members.
Yeah, it's been shared.
Wonderful.
Thank you. And Mr. Lewis, you had your hand raised?
Yes. Good evening again. One of my concerns that I have seen in particular is that a lot of the time, young people, when they have a craft or they learn an instrument or they're good at it, the support system is not there for them to become professional in terms of whether it's going through a specific musical institute like Berkeley or whatever the case may be, and the parents don't have the monies to pay those high exorbitant tuition fees, or whether it's somebody trying to break into the industry, whether it's whatever genre of music. So I wanted to find out what type of connections that Tropical Fed has that could create that, even in the space of music engineering and And even in that space of producing and production, where a lot of the young people are not aware of, that is where you make your money. I wonder how much of that is pushed in so that the young people know the different avenues and have access to the scholarships and the schools and those connections that would allow them to be able to go into an industry, whether it's music, whether it's the production, et cetera, et cetera. I wonder if that is in place so that young people don't just go into a cycle of being a part of something, and then once it stopped, it does not give them satisfactory in terms of monetary or tangible, because like anything else, it's nice to have a craft, but it's nice to get the money that the craft could potentially give you to allow you to keep growing. So that's one of my concerns.
Okay, so I love your question. Your question is actually what we do. So a couple of workshops that we have had to address the professionality of artists is one, copyrights and royalties. How do you protect your music? So we have conducted a number of workshops that I could document that we have done on that subject. We recently did a workshop on taxation during tax season. Taxation for artists. How do you utilize the tax code to benefit your artists and to invest? I mentioned we recently did an event in Times Square. The main reason for doing that event in Times Square is to let our people know that we are part of this fabric, and we should really strive to do better. And it was a successful event. We also have a partnership with the Brooklyn Public Library where we do music programs and other programs, arts and craft reading programs, with the Brooklyn Public Library. They will also advocate on our behalf of the success of our programs. We are in a down mode because of the pandemic, but prior to the pandemic, the kids used to go to at least 5 universities and perform for the year, from Hofstra University to NYU, and have a little mini college tour so they could be in that mindset of college. My daughter just went to college and she started in the program when she was a baby, I guess. And she got a full scholarship to go to Columbia. And at the end of the year, we try to give each student leaving our program $1,000. We would love it to be more because I know college is not expensive, it's very expensive. So it's a question of me and my team being aggressive and fighting for our students in our community, and I'm passionate about it. So I hope I answered your question.
Does that answer your question, Mr. Lewis?
Yeah, to a point, but I wouldn't labor it. I will take it off here to ask other questions.
Appreciated. There is a question about, is your office located on Madison Avenue? That's the office that's on your website. Is that accurate?
Yes, that is a virtual space that we use to collect mail and, if possible, have a meeting, which we haven't had one in a while, but that's just basically called a virtual office.
Okay. All right. I'm not seeing any other questions. I'm trying to see Roderick, our chairperson's in the meeting. Mr. Daly.
Well, am I still muted? Hold on. Okay.
Yeah, you're clear.
So no, I just want to first of all say real fast and say thank you each and every one of you for this is the official start of our fiscal year 22-23. And it's first of all, thank you, Mr. Frey, for accepting the helm of being chair of land use, and Ms. James for taking the helm of being in charge of rezoning. There are a couple of things that, one, I realize that this committee is going to have a lot of work, and I'm going to have a couple of suggestions with both chairs in an oncoming day. I just want to make sure that everybody knows that there's an automatic adjournment for 9 o'clock, right? And it's now 9:15. Yeah. My understanding is that land use has not spoken as yet.
Zoning.
Right, and so I'm not sure how that's going to work. I think it's going to be a conversation that also needs to be had, but I just want to make sure that we are aware of that, because these two committees, I believe, are very important for our residents and what is happening within our community. But there is an automatic adjournment at 9:15, so we need to figure out how that's going to work.
Okay.
On point of order, Mr. Chairperson,
Which one?
the land use chair.
Yes, Ms. James.
Yes, we've had a presentation tonight. The chair has just joined, the chair of the board has joined. However, 37 people have stayed on because they believe that this is very important. We've had two presenters who are presenting something that is of tremendous importance to this community. So if it needs a motion to waive the automatic waiver, I think as a matter of courtesy, we need to proceed and allow them to present and for the land use to take a very simple, straightforward vote.
All right, so two things, Ms. James. One, yes, you can ask for that time. However, it's a staff time, so that it comes with the staff component. But you could make a resolution to adjust that as long as it's okay with this person, staff.
Yeah, I made arrangements with Ms. Frazier because we knew that this was our first meeting and it would probably extend. So we made provisions for that. And
All
we
right,
knew
so
it would be lengthy and we knew that we had multiple presenters. So I think the idea
right.
that we knew we would probably go over, but we're still trying to maintain and make it as efficient as possible.
That's fine. Miss James, and I guess you'd make a motion for a specific time and extend it for the meeting, if you want to make that motion, or anybody else who's a committee member can do that.
Well, Mr. Chair, I'm not aware that the board had taken a vote on this matter. So
What matter?
I can't make an automatic extent.
No, it is 9 o'clock. 9 o'clock is the end time for the staff. 1 to 9 and 9 to 5.
Okay, but the chair of the land use has just indicated that he's gotten permission. I'm
Yes,
not
so that's
aware
why,
that the
but
board.
again, Ms. James, what I'm saying to you is that even though the meeting has an automatic adjournment at 9 o'clock, right? Though Ms. Frazier agreed to extend and said it's okay, right? If she says okay, which is fine, I'm not objecting, I'm just simply saying, then you have to make a motion to extend it and extend it for how much time do you
I
want
move
to extend it for?
that it be extended until such time that the deliberation has ended, as recognized by the chair of the land use committee.
Okay, do we have
I
a
second.
all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All
Aye.
opposed? Okay, all opposed? Any abstentions?
Opposed.
One opposition? Okay, the motion passes. So we have our extension, Mr. Daly. We're just finishing up with Tropical Fet. Mr. Daly, do you mind if we finish up with our organization and so we can conduct the vote? And then we're actually going to shift to rezoning once the vote is.
It's both of your meetings. It's your meeting. You do as you like.
Understood. Mr. Amable, and are you guys? We finished the Q&A. Do you have any closing statements?
Just one point, in terms of our programming structure, we have developed in the past and want to extend and develop more in future is, a parent bring a kid to the program and the parents have nothing to do. So we actually have a system where, okay, if you drop your child, maybe you could come and do yoga or take part of some type of other activity that's, available where we have space. So it's not just for the youth, but also for parent engagement. And one of the things that, I like and I share during Mother's Day and Father's Day is seeing when both parents and child engage in a program together to build that family unity. So we look at things from a holistic point of view, not just, okay, we're doing a program, but just how it affects the whole community in terms of mental health, community safety, security, and everything else in between.
Appreciate that. Ms. Viglianti, I'm going to make your question the last one so we can move on to a motion and then a vote.
Okay, thanks. It's quick. I'm going back to the recording studio. Is that free to the public?
Yeah, I would say right now, yes. Because and reason why free for me is entertaining, providing we get the funding. I know it costs a lot to produce music. And then when artists go out there, People want them to perform for free. And, you know, like your colleague said, they need to understand, you know, they should be making some wealth out of this. We are a not-for-profit organization. We're supposed to be there for the community. If we get in funding to subsidize that cost, definitely yes.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Amable and Mr. Marcel. Mr. Amable and Mr. Marcel, sorry, tongue-tied.
It's all right.
As the night goes, you know, the body goes with it. Thank you.
Thanks again. Thanks again for having us.
Thanks again.
Okay. Would anyone like to make a motion for the letter of support for Tropical Fet?
Osney Lewis, board member, committee member, make a motion to grant the letter of support for Tropical Fet.
Do we
I
have a
second the motion.
motion? Has
Sorry, Chair.
been it's okay. It's been properly where's that and seconded. So now we'll go to a roll call vote based off of the membership of August 28th, and I'll run through the names. Adele Bennett.
Hold on.
She muted. She's muted. Okay. Allison.
I don't know. I'll say abstain.
Abstain? Okay. All right. Allison Martinez.
Yes.
Hazel Martinez. I don't believe she's here, but I'm still going to call it out. Ms. Viglianti.
Yes.
Dr. Carol Renault. I don't believe she's here. Ann Hudson. You herself. Move on. Rachel Goodfriend. Just a time, we'll wait for that vote. Julia Charles. I don't believe she's here. Mary Gallagher. I don't believe she's here. Joan Erskine.
Yes.
Erskine. Dale Dawes. Yes. Bree DaCosta, I believe, is here. Vanessa Quaishi.
Yes.
Perlene Fields.
Abstain.
Abstain. Mary Bell Downs. Julia James.
Yes.
Yolanda Aline. She's absent. Judy Aki. Therese Rodney. Simone Sylvester. Judy Spence. I'm just calling a name just for attendance purposes also. Lilith Robinson. See her here. She's not active. Miss Robinson. Osney Lewis.
Yes.
Tamara Thomas.
Yes.
Alexandria Skimidbar. Following up with members that are here and that are active. Ann Hudson, could you unmute yourself and give us a vote? Okay. Rachel Goodfriend. Anybody in the chat? Sorry, they responded there. Let me all right, I'll tabulate the vote and I'll reach out to some of the people because I don't think that they're probably having technical issues, just to make sure I have their votes recorded. And at this time, I'm gonna pass the meeting over to our rezoning chair, Ms. Julia James, and she's gonna take the agenda into the next portion of the meeting. Ms.
I have a point of order. I'm sorry. Can I just interrupt for a second?
Sure.
Did you ask the secretary for her vote? Do we have?
She's a member of this committee, so she gets.
Oh, okay. All right. I'm sorry. I thought she was just here recording the
No.
meeting. I didn't realize she was also a member.
Yeah, she's a member of the committee. I'll make sure that this list, I just got it today, gets distributed to everyone so you're aware of who the active members are. She's
Okay. And then my other point is that I'm not sure that that's a quorum of votes. I don't know.
Well, the active
We only
membership
have
is,
like 10 votes or something.
yeah, I know. That's why I'm trying to, I don't know, it can't be tabled because the motion is opened. So that would be out of order. And the people that are supposed to respond, they're on the meeting, but they're not responding. So that's a unique situation.
So, but point of order, Mr. Chair.
Yes. Yes, Mr. Daly.
So if has quorum been established for the meeting?
Quorum was established. 15 members.
Okay. And how many members are on the committee?
28.
28. So you need 15 members to be present. And you said you have quorum?
I had quorum at one
Then
point.
then the vote can go ahead.
All right. So with that in mind, the motion passes and we have a yes for a letter of support for Tropical Fed. Thank you for stepping in, Mr. Daly, and correcting me on that matter.
Mr. Raffray,
Yes.
as a point of information,
Yes.
the names of the members cannot be circulated due to the identifying information law.
Oh, thank you for that correction, Ms. Frazier. I do remember Ms. Barton telling me that.
Thank you.
So yes, I can't disclose that information for privacy protecting purposes, but they are currently actively 28 members registered. If you didn't hear your name, you need to fill out an application to join the committee properly so that you could also be a member and have your vote counted and heard. All right. So you have your letter of support, Mr. Amel. Thank you for your contributions
No,
this evening.
wait. I'm sorry. Point of information as well. The committee can make a recommendation to the general board. The
Yes.
committee cannot give a letter.
That's correct.
So he has to show, you have to present at the general board on the 21st.
I was getting to that. I do have to go
Okay.
to the executive meeting first to have your letter of recommendation acknowledged and put onto the general board meeting agenda, but you'd have gotten approval at the committee level, but it still needs to go before the general board to get your letter approved. Do you understand that, Mr. Amable?
Yes, I do. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Have a good one. Have a good one. Take care. Bye-bye.
Excellent. At this time, I'm going to hand it.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, can I ask you, with your permission, if rather than adjourn your meeting and call my meeting to order, I would just like to have just 30 seconds to apologize to the members of the committee, of the community who stayed this late to participate in the rezoning. It shows your commitment to this process. Unfortunately, it would be necessary to adjourn the meeting. Again, I sincerely apologize to you. May I recommend that you contact the community board and let the board know your position on scheduling those two meetings for the same night, that is, whether you think it's feasible or not. So thank you very much and my sincere apologies. And I appreciate the fact that you were willing to stay this late to participate. Have a good night from my end. I turn it back over to the chair of the land use so he can properly adjourn his meeting.
Ms. Viglianti, you have a question?
Yeah, I'm wondering if it's possible if we could at some point vote on whether we want to have these meetings together or separate. Is it possible to have separate meetings? Or is that not, the schedule doesn't permit it?
Its schedule does permit it, and that's why, Miss Frazier, are you on the line right now?
Yes, I am.
Would you kindly put the chairperson's email in the chat? And would you kindly put the board's email in the chat? And I would ask all members and community residents who are willing to stay until 9:30 tonight to send an email to both numbers, both email addresses, expressing your position on the fact that rezoning and land use are scheduled for the same night.
Okay, you said.
And I just need to
share.
Yeah, both emails. And I just want to very quickly say that rezoning is going to have a very full agenda. I'm excited about the fact that we had a university reach out to us and offer us a possibility of getting interns to work with us over the next year. So we are going to get the resources that we need to move this forward. an agenda in terms of what they'll be doing, how, it's just it's just so much. So I want you to know that this is moving forward, and we're fortunate to get the resources that we need, and that we are hoping. My goal is within a year to have a plan in place that it can be presented to the city and have them make a decision on it. And I need your input. I need your suggestions. I need all of us to be involved and to just come together. It is our community. We want to sustain it. We want it to thrive. So your help is appreciated. And I'm sorry for what happened this evening.
You have 2 questions. Do you have enough time? You think we have enough time for you to address them? Or would you want to?
Yeah, I mean, I'm willing to stay. Yes, by all means. I didn't want to be going. Yeah,
Ms.
sure.
Ms. Vigliante, you have your hand raised?
Well, it's still from before, but I'm going back to what I said. Can we just bring it, like ask to put it on the agenda at the board meeting to vote on it? Do we have to wait for emails to come from people to have a vote on whether we want as a board to have these meetings together or separately?
I think it would need to go before the executive board first. They would need to
Can I make a motion that we have it brought before the executive board
Sure.
so we can make it expedient?
Ms. James?
Here's the drawback, though. It means that it will be another month before meetings are held. So
But if we
I'm
don't
not
do
sure.
that, then what?
Then there'll be no meetings
All
in
right,
the month of
so
September.
point of information.
Mr. Daly, we can't hear you.
No, I said point of information.
Okay. Acknowledge, Mr. Daly.
The rezoning committee is an ad hoc committee, right? So the issue of whether or not they are allowed to meet when it's feasible, they could meet 50 times for the month if they want to, right? It's not a standing committee. If they want to make it a standing committee, it have to be changed in the bylaws, which it's not. So if Miss James, who is chairing the rezone committee, wants to meet on another night, or you can look at when the land use and rezoning committee meets and adjust the time instead of from 7:30 to 9, you could meet from 7 to 9. It is up to it's ad hoc. It does not need to go before the board. The idea was at the beginning to keep both committees together to minimize the amount of time that people have to spend coming to committee meetings, since both committees have an overlap in membership. Right? But if the people who just want to be part of rezoning want to do their own day, I don't object to that. Right? And since it's ultimately, one of my decisions, I don't object to it. But at the same time, the idea was to minimize the amount of meetings that people had to attend per month and time.
Given what was just said, I would like to invite everyone here to a meeting of the rezoning committee to be held on the 4th Tuesday of this month on the 27th. An email will be sent out to you reminding you, and I look forward to every single one of you rejoining us on that evening, the 27th of September, the 4th Tuesday, to participate fully. We will have the time to hear from you, because we want to hear, I want to hear from you. We all want to hear from you. How do you think we can move this process forward? So your voice is important. Your attendance is important on September 27th, the 4th Tuesday.
Right. I think.
Does that conflict with the educational committee?
No, it does not.
The education committee now meets on the second Wednesday, Mr. Lewis.
Well, I wasn't aware of the updated schedule, so I would like that to be sent out, please.
Okay, Ms. Frazier, can you please send out a calendar of the committee times to all of the board members, please?
Sure will.
Thank you.
Understood. Ms. James, are you good with your information that you released? You have your meeting date scheduled. Is there any closing statements before we adjourn?
No, just to say thank you again to everyone.
Thank you again. Thank you, James. Thank you again for everyone coming tonight. We had some business and we had a presentation. It kind of got a little jam-packed. I did my best to try to manage that. I'll do better. And at this time,
I
nine.
just have one more, please, Mr. I think this was a very good meeting. I'm complimenting you, so
Oh,
stop me.
thank you, thank you.
I think this meeting was a very productive meeting in terms of the information that we received tonight and the things which were brought forward. So thank you.
Thank you for that acknowledgement. Yes, what time was September 27th?
7:30.
7:30. The question just in the chat. That's why I was asking. And thank you everybody for our first meeting. You know, we like always, we always had business to conduct. We have information which we're going to try to press forward. And you know, next month we are going to be looking at Robert's rules and how to conduct a meeting and how to use those tools to manage and produce a more productive meeting and get business done. So that'll be one of the info, just to look ahead. Every month we'll be looking at something. So at this time, 9:36. Can anyone make a motion to adjourn?
I make a motion to adjourn, Marguerite.
Okay,
I second that motion, Joan Erskine.
thank you. Motion was properly moved and seconded. Everyone have a good night. Thank you. We look forward to the year to come. Thank you for your attendance and take care.
Good night, everyone.
Good night.
Night.
Good night.
Good night.
Thank you.
Start the recording.
Mr. Daly, you're still on?